Tony, Nick Hausman with Wrestling Inc.
Yeah, Nick, what's up, buddy?
I'll ask you what literally everybody wants me to ask you, which is, from your perspective, what happened with MJF this weekend?
I'm not going to comment on that, but I've got a lot of stuff on the pay-per-view I can comment on, but I'm not going to comment on that.
All right, well, then I'll follow up with something maybe you will comment on. As Punk alluded to, this is a longer than average show. I had a lot of people hitting me up saying they felt fatigued, especially on the East Coast where the show ended after midnight. Is this the kind of length of show you're going to continue to put out going forward?
Follow the feedback of the fans. It was pretty similar. Revolution had great response, and commercially the show was very successful. Like I said before Chris came in, I was starting to say it was a little bit different, and I ended up adding a little bit to the length of the show to help the show commercially and help the show make money. And I think it made, if not a 7-figure difference, definitely a 6-figure difference in the bottom line of the show. And so that's a big consideration, certainly, and a major financial consideration when Game 7. Like I said, it was probably only a 28% chance of the Game 7. It was far more likely if I'd booked the show Saturday that there would have been a game, and it would have been the Warriors who were a big draw. And so the Game 7 only happens 28.1% of the time. 72% of the time, this would have been a pretty easy thing. And on the West Coast, I probably would have ended it around the time they always end. Every pay-per-view's ended between the same time until tonight. They've all ended. We've got a lot of the best pay-per-views anybody's done. They've all ended between 11:40 and 11:55-ish, between 11:40 and 11:56 on the East Coast, which is like 8:40 to 8. So this is about the same amount of wrestling bell to bell as the Revolution. The difference is, I was starting to say, Layla and Chris Statlander had a long, great match before Layla got hurt on the first match of the buy-in in Orlando, which was on the East Coast for the fans. And I thought the fans were far more, from that I learned probably better to put the stuff in the pay-per-view. I thought the crowd, this was the best. If people were fatigued at home, I'm sorry, because I never intended it to be that way. But it was the best the fans in the arena have ever reacted for the last 3 matches of any pay-per-view we've ever done, Nick. And I've done 13 of them now, and plus the original Fight for the Fallen Fighter Fest, which were free, but they were free domestically. I think they were still international pay-per-views, but I think overall international gets a good deal on pay-per-view prices. So I think domestically, this was again the highest we've ever done for Double or Nothing. So as I saw it go, it was getting more and more likely that it was going to go 7 games, which again is very unlikely. Not very unlikely, less than 28.1% historically, exactly. And so as it was tied 2-2. I'm watching. Obviously, we did really well. If anybody followed the Wednesday ratings, I was really happy with the go-home show in terms of the quality of the wrestling. I thought the wrestling was excellent. I really loved the Samoa Joe versus Kyle O'Reilly main event and the 3-way match with Swerve getting the win, probably his biggest win to date. And a big match on Dynamite with Jungle Boy and Ricky Starks. And I thought that it was very clear the basketball game with those guys had a big impact on the rating, because we were over 1 million for the first hour. P2 and about over 475 for the first hour. Then it was like, I don't know, 880 in the second hour. It was over 1 million in the first, so it was a huge drop, but because of the basketball. But still, overall, the show did a really good number. It was up week over week, and a 0.35 is a huge number to pull with what we were up against. We were a top 10 show on television right now, not cable, a top 10 show on all of television. Dynamite, with the competition it was up against, I mean, everyone was up against that competition, and it did really well for Warner Brothers Discovery, which had like 6 of the top 10 shows on Wednesday. And I'm sorry, that's not true. ESPN had big coverage. I think Warner Brothers Discovery had 4 of the top 10 shows. ESPN also did well. We beat every show on ABC, every show on Fox, every show on CBS except Survivor. And NBC has that power block with the Chicago shows, the Chicago Med and the Chicago PD and the Chicago Fire. Those did real well. We were top 10 on all of television, beating broadcast TV now. That's a huge deal for us. And that was against big sports competition. So there was clear, though, from seeing the way the first hour moved, that like it's going to swing our fans. I see evidence that we had, by putting the hot 3 matches on at the end, a lot of interest in the show, and it drove. Not only were they the hottest, like I said before, not to belabor it, the hottest the crowd's ever been for the last 3 matches of any pay-per-view we've ever done. So I felt really good about that. People at home, I mean, look, I've had dinner with Dana out here. I think I may have noted to people while I was out here, and with my dad, and we were talking about it. It's a great business strategy for them too. Punk and Hangman went into the ring before any UFC main event you'll ever see, and they do pretty well. They do great numbers. They're the biggest pay-per-view company in the world, and they do a great job. They have similar number of fights as we did matches, actually more. You'll see like 15 prelims, like 15 matches on the UFC card. Why? For a lot of reasons. They've a lot of fighters that people are interested in. It drives engagement. It drives betting. It gives people more time to buy the show, build more word of mouth for a main event, and hey, on a Saturday, guess what? Like, it's no secret I'm in the football business. I, for my career, have to watch football on Saturdays.
So are you trying to move in kind of a UFC style direction? Are you trying to kind of
No, like I said, I'll see what the feedback to this
Okay.
was. This was a unique circumstance. I was flexible with a window. It's a good chance that we would have ended at the same time we always do. If I hadn't had to add to the card to make sure there was a whole, almost like, look, the whole pay-per-view was great. But it was one more match than Revolution, bell to start to finish if you had the buy-in. There were 12 matches on the Revolution. There were 13 matches tonight, including the buy-in. There were 12. It was 9 plus 3 on Revolution. It was 12 plus 1 tonight. So it was one more. Bell to bell, it might have been, I think it was very similar start to finish in terms of the action. And it was on the West Coast, which I think makes it make more sense. So like I said, for these people in Vegas who come to the fights, and also people from all over the world, but in Vegas, in this building, they never see a world title fight before we got to the match. And they start early with more fights. I'm not saying look, if a UFC model is a very successful model, we're obviously totally different sports.
I was about to say, yeah.
But I have a ton of respect for what they do in pay-per-view, and that's why one of the reasons why I've loved it, they're the 800-pound gorilla of this business, and I stay out of the way. And also Dana's my friend, and he's been so cool to me. So like, I take great pride in their success, and also like being here in their home building in their hometown, and like this is his territory. So I wanted to see him with my dad and hang out with him while I was here. But like he was telling me, it's worked great for their business too. I was telling him, I bet now because Game 7 was looking very. It was Thursday night we had dinner, so I didn't know there was Game 6 hadn't been played yet. But I was telling him, I was like, and they have these things all the time. They have big sporting events on Saturday nights. College football's huge, and same as me, they're rooting against the game going to overtime. And tonight, I think it was a 4-point game. So we had, Shivani push when the game ended, not saying about the basketball exactly, but saying like, hey, there's people at home. If you haven't been watching, this has been a great pay-per-view, which has been a lot of great stuff already. And there's so much left to go. And when Anarchy in the Arena was going off and the crowd was the hottest they had been at the entire point in the night and the basketball game's over, that's a good ad for people to like, hey, you might want to like flip this on. There's a lot of people watching with their families or with their friends. Gatherings now are back. People are hanging out in their homes more. So it's a great reason, hey, the game's over. If you get one wrestling, I've been that wrestling fan, right? I've been that fan at like watching, hey, was the Royal Rumble 2003 on during the football championship games? It was, right? Anybody?
I think that.
You mean the NFC and AFC championship games?
I'm pretty sure it was. I remember watching the matches, like the Kurt Angle match, and I'm pretty sure the football games were on that night. And that's like literally the second and third highest watched TV shows of the entire year after the Super Bowl. So I was in that game. We were in the Jaguars were actually the number 2 show of the year in that year, second most watched show of the year. So like, look, like I thought it came out incredibly well. I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but it was a crazy week for many reasons and for the length of the show. It was shorter than WrestleMania 31, I believe, which is a great show other than the Sting stuff, I think, is one of the best shows. And so besides that part, is a great show, and it was significantly longer than what we did tonight, especially with the stuff at the beginning. He's pointing and nodding.
You were right. It's the same.
It was
January 9th.
January 9th. It was the same day. Yeah, they were up against. So I remember watching the Champions. It's obviously a big part of my life now. 2003 Royal Rumble. So like a lot of big events that happens, but we actually fought through. This is a big win. We did our record gate. We did the record for Double or Nothing again. Every time, and it was a big success. And for the crowd, that's why I put those 3 matches at the end, knowing that the crowd would be the hottest they've been. And we got the hottest crowd. I think for people at home, look, like that was one of the things Dana said that really got through to me. Is like if what you're doing is working, keep doing it, and like ignore like some of the noise if it's working, because like you're gonna get people that don't like what you're doing, no matter how well it's doing. And I think, look, that being said, I don't plan to always go this late. I think it was a unique circumstance, but I left us the flexibility. We could have ended like we have every other time, by 11:40 to 11:58 on the West Coast, which would have been 8:40, and it would have been about 40 minutes earlier than we actually did end. But I added about 40 minutes into the show, and like I said, I think it paid off at a tune of 6 to 7 figures.
Okay.
Thanks.